putting in continuous effort is really where it's at. It's how we start to really build that sense of connection and how we decide that we are going to show up in the relationship.
Get your daily dose of motivation on the Motivational Moments with Michelle podcast. In Motivation with Michelle podcast, you'll get encouraging, uplifting, and life-changing wisdom that will transform your world at your fingertips, 24 hours a day. Get a fuller, deeper revelation of the tools you can implement to see incredible transformation in your life from Michelle Newstetter's powerful teachings. Tune in whenever you need to be edified, uplifted, or a dose of motivation, no matter where you are. Subscribe to Motivational Moments with Michelle podcast with Michelle Newstetter today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud.
Hey there, and welcome to this Wednesday Word of Wisdom. I'm really glad that you are joining me today. We are going to be talking about some key pieces that will help you to have better, stronger relationships. When we start a relationship, we tend to have some ideas about how relationships should operate. Sometimes we call these expectations. Sometimes we look at some of these things as myths or just ideas that we were like belief systems around how relationships should operate, right? We get these myths from many different sources. We get them from like movies, we get them from social media, we get them from our past experiences, we get them from our upbringing. There's all sorts of places where we learn these myths about relationships. There are literally hundreds of common myths that we see in relationship. The problem is that if we don't correct these myths, they start to rule our relationship, and then we wind up feeling dissatisfied, unhappy. It steals our sense of connectedness, and it steals our sense of connectedness and satisfaction in the relationship. Like when you think that a relationship should be a certain way, and yours is not living up to that standard, you're going to be disappointed continuously. It's going to eat away at you. It's really important that we start to become aware of these myths in relationships so that we can start to break them for ourselves. Now, one of these particular myths that I want to talk about today is the "it shouldn't be this hard" myth. People think that a good relationship means you shouldn't have to work at it, but that is not the case. Good relationships take a lot of work. They take hard work. They take learning the foundations and principles and acting in them each and every day. I often use the analogy of like a car or a garden where a relationship needs, it needs maintenance. It needs hard work in order for it to flourish. And you know what? The hard work that goes into a healthy relationship does not have to be exhausting and overwhelming. It doesn't have to feel like a chore all the time. Think about like a hobby that you're into or some kind of project that you got really excited about. All of those types of things, they take work, right? But you enjoy that work that you're doing. And when you really care about your partner, you enjoy the work. Hey, that's not always to say that that's the truth though, right? Like there are times when we recognize that the relationship is taking a lot of work and it feels like work sometimes. But in the end, it winds up leading to really great things for you. I mean, if you really think about it, as a relationship goes on, there's more things that call on our time, more responsibilities, there's more time and energy that's needed, there's changes in, say, the roles that we've adopted, and it seems almost like a natural tendency for couples to have less and less time for one another. But putting the effort in is where it's at. And yet, the early stages are really where that work begins, right? Because in the beginning, we have to lay the right foundation. Because it's about getting to know our partner. It's about learning how to listen actively, not passively. It's about learning how to let go of control, how to let ourselves be vulnerable, how to be honest and truthful even when it's tough, how to create an open environment and an environment that feels emotionally safe to talk about things. It's about creating an environment of affection and love. It's about staying in check of what you're focusing on and what your perceptions are, and really about focusing on you and not what your partner needs to change. But because it does take work, especially when things are not going as well as we would like, or we're arguing and those kinds of things, far too many people throw in the towel way early because they think it shouldn't be this hard. Now, that being said, it shouldn't be relentlessly difficult either, like indefinitely. But pain, effort, strain, challenges, all of those things are natural to relationships. So many times we make permanent decisions in impermanent emotions. The pain is tough, it hurts, it sucks, but it won't last forever. Now, you have to think, though, that there are varying degrees of difficulty in relationships. Every season of life is going to present itself with different challenges that you're going to have to walk through. And I would say that putting in continuous effort is really where it's at. It's how we start to really build that sense of connection and how we decide that we are going to show up in the relationship, which means eventually it stops feeling like work because it just becomes what we do. It becomes how I do relationship. These are the things that we do in our relationship. It becomes part of your relationship culture. So then we're putting in more of a labor of love than just pure labor. I mean, the pain will still be painful, but at the end of the day, you're going to want to reconnect. You're going to want to let the little things go. You're going to want to reconcile if you're doing the things together that make relationships work. We don't tend to think about relationships as something that we need a skill for. It's easy to forget that this type of thing is a skill set that we have to develop, just like anything else that we have to learn. What the idea that we're presented with is that if a relationship if the feelings are there, if we really love each other, then the relationship should just thrive on its own. And because of that, many of us have not developed the skills that we need in relationship. And in fact, we're fairly unskillful when it comes to some of the things that make relationships thrive. Albeit when you hear them, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Why haven't I been doing this all along? That kind of thing. And just because something is a simple concept does not make it easy to implement. So while loving each other isn't enough to make your relationship thrive, we do have the ability to participate in our relationship in a way that's going to really strongly influence the degree to which the relationship will thrive.
Do you want to reignite the spark in your relationship?
How can you be more fearless?
How can you anchor yourself to the truths you know, but you aren't living out?
Fearlessly Anchored Marriages is a program that will teach you to live love intentionally. Anything you want in life does not come accidentally.
So why would your relationship be any different?
Over the next 12 weeks, you will be exposed to some of the mindset blocks that could interfere with your current relationship. You will be coached to learn how to set boundaries, how to recognize opportunities, how to develop self-awareness, how to lead yourself and lead your relationship.
We've all been there. The struggle is real. We want to feel connected, heard, valued, and loved. Join us in transforming your relationship. Reignite the flame.
Reconnect. Refresh.
Fearlessly
Anchored Marriages. Let's live love
intentionally.